I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Rania Al-Baroudi. I'm based in Geneva and I manage the Geneva Creativity Center, which is a platform that seeks to foster collaboration and innovation at the interface of academic research and the industry. I'm very happy to be here with you today. And I'll start by welcoming our panelists.
I fell asleep.
Welcome to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here today and for accepting the invitation. And I will start by introducing briefly each of the speakers, starting with Dr. Antoine Geissbuhler, who's a medical doctor, e-health expert, and director of the Digital Transition Strategy at the University of Geneva. He also leads a large telemedicine network in more than 20 low to middle income countries and 300 hospitals. Then Mr. Laurent Horvath, who is Drone Urban Air Mobility Ambassador for Switzerland from the Office for the Promotion of Industry and Technology in Geneva. Then to his right there is Dr. Lamrani, former Dean of an Ivy League School of Engineering, Le Mans, France, General Manager of the R&D Innovation Center and Menicon branch in Geneva. Menicon is a leading Japanese contact lens company. Then next to him, Ms. Helen Teplitskaia, advisor to the chairman and CEO of Sberbank, the largest financial institution in Eastern and Central Europe. And next to Mrs. Teplitskaia, we have Marcel, Dr. Marcel Muenster, medical doctor, entrepreneur, and investor, founder and director of the Gritti Fund. And last but not least, Mr. Stephan Siegenthaler, board member, chief strategy officer, and marketing and sales at Implantica, a medtech company based in Zug, Switzerland. Now I will hand it over to you to present yourselves in 3 to 5 minutes maximum, so that you can tell us what you do, your activities, and why you're here today. Thank you very much. So we can start with you, Dr.
And the slides.
And the slides. Please, the slides. Yes.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Rania, for the introduction, and thank you for the opportunity to share a few thoughts about digital innovation and how it can transform health systems. And rather than starting with very high-tech things, I want to start with things that we've been doing for the last 20 years in very different settings, but you will see that actually what we've been doing there is really much relevant also in very affluent countries. We're going to talk about medical deserts, and those are places where we are lacking care professionals. And you may be surprised to hear that we have medical deserts in Switzerland. Switzerland has the highest concentration of physicians in the world, I think on par with Austria, but basically, you know, there are doctors everywhere, almost everywhere. There are a few places where this is becoming a challenge. And there are also other issues like elderly population who find it more and more difficult to move around, especially when it's icy on the ground and they're afraid to fall, and they would like to be able to connect with their care professionals, not having to move around. So what we've learned implementing telemedicine and distance services in low and middle income countries is actually coming back now in the more affluent countries where distance is actually becoming a problem again due to the aging of the population, due to the disparity of deployment of care professionals. So let's take a few examples. And this is an example taken in a small health center in East Nepal. This place is about 2 days walking to the next hospital. And so one of the challenges is to try to make sure that the patients who come to this place have a very good reason for making the trip to the next hospital. And so what we've done there is implement telemedicine services using technologies such as Skype and very simple things. And what we've learned is that if we put those technologies and if we add some intelligent objects that are connected to the telemedicine system, such as electrocardiogram, such as ultrasonography, such as eye fundus imaging, such as devices that basically help making diagnosis, even though there is no doctor in this place, the nurses and the care professionals there can manage those patients, and half of the patients that would have had to travel to be taken care of can be managed locally. And we're doing exactly the same now in the home of the elderly in Geneva. We're installing video conferencing with digitally connected objects so that we can remote monitor those patients. We can make remote visits so that nurses can visit several patients in their homes. They don't have to move. And what has been shown in other studies that with these kind of things, you reduce the number of patients who get hospitalized because you can see earlier on what is going on. So lessons from the medical deserts applied to Geneva. This is another example. We are here closer to the Caspian region, even though we are on the other side. It's in the Kyrgyz Republic. And here the mandate was to rethink and redesign the medical education program to make sure that we use new methodologies to train doctors, which has been a big issue. Actually, those are not doctors, those are nurses. Doctors have larger hats, nurses, and what we learn there is how to disrupt education using distance education, using e-education, e-learning. But also what we learn here is that once those care professionals are trained and sent in remote places, and there are plenty of remote places in the Kyrgyz Republic, if they can stay in contact with their professors, if they can stay in contact with experts when they're faced with a difficult situation, they will accept to go there, they will remain longer active in those remote places, and that's very important to strengthen the health system. And in the Alps, we have this problem of getting doctors to stay in the small communities, and connecting them to each other is also something that increases the likelihood that they will be productive and staying for a longer period of time in those regions. And this is a more extreme situation. Here we're bringing capacity building in healthcare in refugee camps. So we have here, this is the Dadaab refugee camp in Kenya, so Somali refugees. Basically, most of them were born in this camp, and after the end of their secondary education, they don't have access to either jobs or higher education. And so the idea here is to train them. Obviously, it's a place where you don't want to spend too much time. It's a quite dangerous place. But using, again, e-learning and other kinds of interactions, we can make sure that they acquire skills that can then be used in the hospitals, in the pharmacies, in the labs of the camp, but also then when they return to their country or where they're relocated to a different country, have access to medical education. So, and here what we learn, what's interesting with this program is that it's not just e-learning, it's also mentoring by Swiss medical students from my university who actually mentor those students. And this is the new thing about learning. It's not just transmitting knowledge, it's about sharing experiences, it's about mobilizing this knowledge. And the experience both for the refugees and for medical students is something that is totally new and very important. And so the use of those collaboration tools for learning, for mentoring, for tele-expertise really help us build a next generation of professionals who are going to be able to cope with the disruption that the digital age is producing. I just want to spend the last minute on a project that's very dear to my heart. It's a project that was launched by Terre des Hommes. Terre des Hommes is an NGO dealing with children all over the world. And they have done one of the most advanced things I've seen in terms of digital health. It's equipping health agents with tablets that contain artificial intelligence and decision support systems, and that help those health agents make better decisions about how to treat patients. Those tablets can also be connected to intelligent objects to increase diagnosis. And as you can see from the numbers, they're covering, I think, about half of Burkina Faso, and they're extending to the nearby countries. They're generating 200,000 consultations per month. And so one of the challenges we have now, and this is large data, or this is big data, is how we're going to be mastering all this information, combining this information with satellite-derived imaging, with mobility information coming from mobile phones, to really understand what is behind this information and how we can use it either to better steer health services and decide where interventions should take place, to detect epidemics, because we could see patterns that are different, and then early on be able to detect epidemics, and also to detect care professionals who would need extra training because they're not performing as well as they should. So this is a sample of the kind of things that we can do with digital health in terms of improving diagnosis, improving the capacity of the care professionals, but also improving the health systems by clever management of the data. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So without much ado, we will pass to the next presentation of Mrs. Teplitskaia.
It's not me.
It is, yeah.
Just a test if you actually paid attention.
So maybe you could start by saying a few words about you.
I would like my presentation, if possible, to also be loaded.
Okay.
Yes. Can you please ask the load?
Yes,
okay,
there it
perfect.
is.
Lucky you, this presentation is the shortest out of the three that I'm delivering today, so it will not take much time, but the next slide that I just wanted to show you is too long to describe. Basically, as I was kindly introduced, thank you so much for the introduction. I represent Sberbank. We're a bank. On the last panel, I discussed cybersecurity, and I mentioned that we are now the IT company with a banking license. So we don't focus indeed on just cybersecurity for financial services. We have a very extensive research going on in many directions. We have several labs primarily focused on artificial intelligence, virtual reality, Internet of Things, and so on. And this all is done, of course, to provide highest level financial services, but also, as I mentioned earlier, we are about building an ecosystem where our clients, be they just retail customers or corporations, will get a very holistic service which will basically evolve around all of their needs and all aspects of their life. One of the directions that we are taking is actually creation of a e-health ecosystem. It is a new project. We sometimes develop technologies in-house from scratch, and sometimes we acquire companies and co-develop them, later commercializing their technology, and DocDoc is an example of such a collaborative project with the developers of DocDoc. Russia has, the vast territory. It's the largest country in the world. So there are deserted medical areas as well, like medical deserts. And there are many so-called orphaned patients, meaning orphaned not because they don't have living parents, but because they don't have a doctor, and they have been lost from the medical system. So we're working on correcting these gaps and providing best quality care, disregarding where the patient is actually located. So we are so far in just 16 cities of Russia, but they're the largest cities. We have about 2,800 clinics that we work with, about 4,000 doctors. There are a variety of services actually that we provide, but today I wanted to focus on some of the aspects that might pertain to international collaboration, hopefully with the members of the panel, some of you in the room. We're living in an extremely challenging time when data is exploding And when resources of the doctors that are providing healthcare are diminishing, you probably noticed, each of you, that your doctor is spending less and less time when you come for an appointment, with some very rare exceptions. And more doctors are transferring their responsibilities to nurse practitioners and so forth. So it's very difficult to maintain high-quality care with the diminishing time resources and exploding information. This also pertains the new drugs, because many excellent doctors graduated from medical colleges years and years ago, and they cannot afford keeping themselves abreast of all the new medicines and compatibility of medicines, because sometimes these medicines can rather kill as opposed to cure. So all of this intricacies were kind of factored in when we designed the system, but it is open-ended, and we are continuing to do it. So what I wanted to propose in sense of collaboration with members of the panel and maybe somebody in the audience, for example, clinical trials are very challenging in certain countries because of the legal climate. Russia is one of the few countries where statistically, cohorts can be clean and actually adequate, and the quality of doctors is exceptional. However, the price for running clinical trial is much lower. There are very advanced new directions that are being taken using artificial intelligence. I mentioned the use of artificial intelligence for cybersecurity. And by the way, cybersecurity is extremely important for healthcare. I shared the horrific case when a hacker actually hacked into a hospital system while the neurosurgeon was performing brain surgery, and it nearly killed the patient. But artificial intelligence, despite hacking risks, is still probably the greatest hope for all of us, the doctors, the patients, because we can assist each other remotely, and it doesn't matter. I was listening to this excellent presentation about healthcare in Africa, and thought that our system called DocDoc can be very well used to provide second and third opinion, to provide omics studies, for biological markers using artificial intelligence. This is what we are focused on at the moment, and I really would like to invite you all to consider collaboration with us. Not just country by country, but actually there are so many global issues that we can address working together.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Teplitskaia. Hopefully, during the discussion, you'll be able to explain more.
I tried not to take too much time from other panelists,
to make your message clearer, and also there will be time for exchange later on. So maybe we could pass the mic to Dr. Lamrani for your presentation.
Yes.
Presentation, please.
While we're waiting, can I echo something?
Sure.
So from a startup point of view, what's really critical is whenever you launch a startup, to your point, the most critical elements for healthcare or digital health startups in particular is getting access to patients, and being able to launch clinical trials is for most startups unaffordable, and you cannot get any verification and therefore future investments or later stage investments without these two critical elements. I'm going to talk about it later, but I just wanted to echo it. So to your point,
Thank you.
100%. That's one of the biggest challenges in healthcare.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your addition. Thanks.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes. Good afternoon to you. Thank you very much for inviting me first. I thank the Caspian Week and organizers. It's really very great to be here. And also Dr. Rania Al-Baroudi to be the moderator for us. I'm very lucky. I already have very great presentation just before me. So I think it's a great introduction for the artificial intelligence and applications we can do with it, and how we can use it for improving the health and improving the productivity of what can go in the future. So I come from a company named Menicon, is the first and largest Japanese company who produced the first Japanese contact lens. We will celebrate almost 70 years very soon. And recently, in 2015, for the first time, we opened an R&D center, innovation center in Geneva. The main purpose of my presentation here is just to show you how the shift and the paradigm shift that is going in the healthcare system and how it is connected to the security, to the artificial intelligence, and how all of these systems go together. The principle of IoT, as everybody knows, the Internet of Things, is already now in the past. We are already discussing about IoE, Internet of Everything. And when you do Internet of Everything, you have to provide smart medical devices, for example, in healthcare, and you have to embed also the artificial intelligence in these smart devices in order to be standalone and can be available for everybody, not only to your system that you are moving forward. So when I was looking at the biosensing technology that exists and the market applied to diagnostics, for example, or point of care, I just try to look what are the major players. And I just find out that the big four until now and before is, as you can see, is those big fours. And I think they are very popular and you are very used to buy their products. Now, what do you think in the future? We are talking about 3 years, 5 years. We are not talking about 10 years, 15 years. Just look about the future. What will be the big four? Do you think those big four will be the same? Or do you think we will have other players? What is your opinion?
Most probably the same.
Most probably the same. Okay. So from our analysis, we think we will have the big seven in healthcare. And why? I wrote it in this way just to attract your attention to the artificial intelligence. So it's the A and the I. So we believe now with the power of smart embedded devices with artificial intelligence and with the background on social behavior also, and the power of deep learning and machine learning, those will be the big players in the foresight future very, very, very soon. And they are already doing it. You can see they are heavily investing in these technologies and buying all the bright startups. So this is what is our suggestion. So going back to our business, which is our main business in Menicon, the main business for us is contact lens and is the ophthalmology, intraocular lenses, and all of what is related to the health of the eye. And as you can see, for the eye, I don't know if you are familiar with tears. Tears are maybe the most interesting human fluid that has the highest level of information about what you are and what you eat and how you are, your emotions. So, I mean, when you are angry, when you are hurt, the composition of your tears are completely different. It's not the same. When you are sick or you eat something, this is translated in the composition of your tears. So you can take it as a clean blood. You don't have cells in the tears while you have it in blood. So you can have all the tests. And you have really a bonanza of biomarkers that you can use to track different diseases. So this is where we started, because we come from an ophthalmology company. We started focusing on using the tears and using the tears to track and to make a very accurate diagnostics. So the principle and the project that we developed, we call it the Terrano Cloud. Terrano Cloud is just a composition of 3 words. The first 2 words is theranostic and the cloud. So the power of therapy diagnostic is theranostic, and you marry that with the clouding and with the artificial intelligence. So this is the project that is going on in different places in our company. So what is really the goal? The goal is simply using these great tools and smart tools in order to prevent and to predict the disease. And also, which is very, very important, I think, and all doctors can agree on this, is the accuracy of diagnostics. Usually you have a lot of disease that you don't diagnose very well, and then you have a wrong treatment which end up badly. This, when you have such power and you can marry it to the artificial intelligence and to deep learning, and specifically also to have your architecture of IoT very smart, that can help a lot in resolving many diagnostics. And also, as my panelist colleagues explained it, we can do it in distance and for orphan patients and for far countries also in Africa and everywhere. The architecture in general that you need to do, which is really, if you look at this part from the right, is the Terrano cloud. I mean, it's the clouding, the artificial intelligence. But key points that you can take here is that doctors, when you come to them and you say, well, I have a fantastic tool, you can make the diagnostic, you can make the analysis, they say, thank you very much, we don't want. Because you touch their infrastructure of IT, you have to teach them, and they don't want to touch anything if it is invasive to their IT or to their platform system. So your the gateway, the interface that you have to do must be extremely universal and does not intervene in any part of their main infrastructure, and a waste of time for them. And also, don't teach them their kind of work. So they want to say, oh, we already know. What do you want me to bring with analysis of photo while I have 30 years of X-ray analysis? So I have no problem. You have to be very gentle to show that this is just an interface that will help you very much to shorten the time of your analysis. So the key point, as I said, is the gateway, and also one of the major things that we will discuss about, I think, the coming 3, 4, 5 years, is the security of the information, the encryption, and also the regulations about the data and how you use human data.
Maybe we can leave that for later.
Yes, and also the right of openness. Yes. Some key elements that we are smart and we try to use them, and already are in the pipeline for the study, is analyzing your tears and analyzing the physiology of your eye on real time and send it to the server to make it with high grade analysis and accurate diagnostics. So I just want to thank you and show you my colleagues that are working with me in Geneva, and my big boss in Japan, Mr. Steve Newman. And we have almost the parity, so it's 4 to 6, but soon it will be 5 to 6. And thank you very much. This is our mascot.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, you can, Laurent, you can, Mr. Horvath, yeah, you can proceed with your presentation. So the next presentation, please. Yes, it's you.
Yes, to be fast a bit.
Bonjour, and good afternoon and dobry din. Thank you very much for the Caspian week to organize that, to Dimitri also and Marat. I will discuss the medical air mobility. What is this? It's how to use drone for medical purpose. In all over Europe and in Switzerland, we have initiatives, and I'm responsible for Switzerland. I'm the ambassador for Switzerland, but we are working several people in all over Europe and Switzerland. What do we have? We have small drones to carry blood samples, or if you have a problem, you have a heart attack, or you need to have a defibrillators. Therefore, you take your smartphone, and the smartphone you have where you are. Therefore, the drone will arrive and bring the defibrillator for you, which is quite proactive. Also, with the avalanche, I do a lot of ski. Now, with the helicopter, you send the drone through the helicopter, and the drone will find the people if they have special devices. That's how we can use this small drone. You can use this small drone here, as example in Davos, or if we have a flooding, a earthquake, or a problem, you have no roads. But we are moving also to another kind of drones. And these drones, where we can carry people, it's not a science fiction. Therefore, we are thinking how we can use these drones. You have some examples here. You can see the evolution from 3 years ago to today. And yesterday, Boeing announced that they were doing a drone, and that was the first successful flight with a drone. Therefore, how it will change the medical and the emergency. What we envision today is that today, if you go to a big city, you have the ambulance going to the place where you have the accident. Guess what? Very often the ambulance is stuck in the traffic. Therefore, could we imagine that we take the ambulance instead of bringing that's the ambulance with a box, with a safety box. If you are stuck in a traffic jam, the drone could pick this safety box with the passenger and go to the hospital. Therefore, we will save a lot of time. We can go exactly where we want. Usually the ambulance go to hospital number 1 because it's closer. But maybe the person will need to go to hospital number 2 because of the traffic jam or because of the mountain or whatever, it's way too far. This kind of drone may be a solution. It will also, if we have an accident, can we bring the box when you can have the surgery? Therefore, we will operate on the place of the accident. That may be crazy, but remember, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, we will not even think about the drone, these kind of drones. Maybe it will be possible. Therefore, that's all the cities that we are working together, and with the hospital, with the medicine, try to fund the best way, and I hope that will revolutionize the way we do the emergency.
Thank you very much, Laurent. Thank you for this excellent presentation. Yes.
Hello,
Dr.
everyone.
Muenster.
I do not have a presentation, so I hate to disappoint you. I'm just going to rock it like, naturally. Really, also thank you for having me. 7 days ago, I had no idea I was coming to Switzerland, and here I am. And the last few days were a roller coaster, right? I'll give you a little bit of a background, what I've done in the past, and I will then talk about my new investment fund. So I'm originally from Germany. I moved to the US 10 years ago. I live in Boston, and I'm a trained medical doctor. I was trained at Johns Hopkins, but in cardiology. But also, I had a diverse background. I had actually clinical rotations in Europe, among Switzerland, at the University Hospital of Bern. I lived in South Korea. I was the only Caucasian guy, which was a lot of fun. And eventually, I moved to the United States. I became afterwards a management consultant. I worked on the industry side. We helped US-based companies, mostly biotech, medical device, and drug companies, launch in Europe, where I sort of brought in my expertise. We helped them with CE mark approval, pricing, market access, and reimbursement. And all of this actually didn't really mean a lot to me. I was looking for a purpose in my life. And the purpose in my life happened actually in the year 2012, when I was stuck in my job and I said, oh my God, if this is going to be the rest of my life, I could rather actually kill myself today. So what I did actually, I as a management consultant, I made quite a bit of money, just coming fresh out of school, and every month I set aside about 50% of my salary, which I used to bootstrap my first company. So in January of 2013, I left everything behind and started my first business, which is a global digital concierge service. We help international travelers to get connected to a local, virtual, and house call doctor anywhere in the world, and we have a local network in more than 180 cities around the world. That's something I've spent time on for the past 6+ years. And last year in February, it was sort of a reflection actually during the Christmas time. I said, I was so privileged in being able to do what I love to do that I want to give back. And along the way, I met amazing people who built companies, some of the largest companies in the world, and who all decided to spend time with me, which was a true privilege. I mean, they can pretty much work with anyone, but they decided to work with me. And I said, I want to give back in the sense I want to provide mentorship to companies. So I started what is called an Entrepreneurship Unplugged World Tour. So I went into, it was actually organized on my own, literally a spur of the moment thing in last January, and I started traveling. My first destination was Dubai in the UAE, and I mentored 34 companies in 7 days. I went to accelerators, incubators, and co-working spaces, and the one thing that was absolutely consistent across the entire time, which was shocking to me, I left Dubai on a 14-hour flight back to Boston. I said, how can this be a lack of early stage financing? And I said, these guys have so much money, so much oil money, why is it not going to where it's supposed to go? And we saw the numbers afterwards, shocking. The UAE alone has a net worth of $500 billion. Saudi actually much larger than the UAE, but only a fraction of this is going into the startup ecosystem. And I said to myself, many people said, you're crazy, why you're doing this, you don't even, you're not from the region. And but my company actually that I founded initially, our second largest market was MENA, so I felt very comfortable doing business there. And over the past few months, I set up my first investment fund called the Gritti Fund. What makes it special, we have a huge healthcare focus. So we will diversify our portfolio, but the majority of the money is going into healthcare. And I'm going to talk briefly about the team because I'm really, really proud. This is, quality relationships I develop over time. So my background is in digital health. I'm also a growth marketing hacker and SEO, so I love everything marketing. And we have a hardware guy. He's actually one of the top 10 healthcare entrepreneurs in the world. He and I have been friends for a long time. He developed actually the first ever FDA-approved blood glucose meter for an iPhone. Company was called Agametrics. His second company is called Misfit, a wearable device company, which was sold to Fossil for $250 million. And he also has 50 patents under his name. On the AI side, we have actually a chief AI and robotics advisor. It's a gentleman who learned AI, has a PhD from MIT, and learned everything about AI from the gentleman who coined the term in 1956 at Dartmouth College, where it was actually first mentioned ever. We have a couple of other folks. It's a skill-based team, so we can help companies at the early stage with everything they need to basically get from an idea to the first level of execution and follow on a co-investment. So analytics, sales and business development, technology, marketing, all of those things are covered. And what I'm really proud of, and this is again purely based on relationships, our LPs are all friends of mine, former Fortune 100 CEOs. One of them is the former CEO and chairman of Becton Dickinson, the world's largest medical device manufacturer. He's a friend of mine. I have him on speed dial. He's my personal advisor. So I feel extremely privileged. I'm the happiest person on earth to have actually all these amazing people working with us. And my was my brainchild, and I brought all these people together, and there are many more people. But what makes this, our corporate launch partner is Bayer, the German pharma company. They are supporting our effort. But what makes this fund special, I want to spend a minute talking about it, and I will see many smiles probably when I mention it. It's the world's first purpose-driven and happiness-focused investment fund. The one thing I've learned actually...
Maybe you can tell us a bit more about it later.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. No, it's excellent, but we're running out of
time.
Thank you very much. But we will develop on this later. Maybe you will have questions from the audience as well regarding these last points you were mentioning. So the last presentation, please. The last presentation, Stephan Siegenthaler. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rania. Thank you to the organizers of this meeting for the invitation. I appreciate it very much to present Implantica, our company. It's about bringing advanced technology into the body, and we have devices on the market and of course also in our pipeline that are aiming to restore bodily functions. It's related to the population getting older, the bodily functions wear out, and the life quality is really impaired if this cannot be treated. We address a lot of these needs. I can show you hands-on what we are doing, but first of all I can confirm what Marcel said before. Money is a huge issue. We started our first device company in 1995. It was called Optec Medical AG, together with Dr. Peter Forcell, who is a surgeon, and myself. And we had no money. We had 100,000 francs, but we had his great invention, which is the adjustable gastric band. It's a device that by now has written medical history. It has been implanted in more than 800,000 people. This is our track record. We have sold the company to J&J in 2002, and we have reinvested our money into new devices, which I will talk to you about now. What we have done in 10 years is research on how to bring energy into the body. Today, still the most successful implant is the pacemaker for the heart, and this uses very little current, so you can run it with a battery for all it takes 9 to 15 years. Now the batteries get better even longer. But when you want to activate a pump or a mini motor inside the body, you need lots more current, and this is challenging because then you have to recharge a battery or you have to feed directly current into the body. And to do this wirelessly, we have spent 10 years of research, because the main challenge, and Dr. Lamrani can confirm this, the main challenge is to have no heat inside the body created, because when you feed energy into the body and you don't control how much energy is used, but you just keep feeding it, then the tissue around the device, because the device heats up, will coagulate and it will harm the patient. We have this under control. We have everything patented and developed. It's fully up and running. We can wirelessly charge and control implants through intact skin. Now, when you do this, you are suddenly confronted, of course, with why do you use it for? What do you want to do with this? And I tell you, when we started to make the patents, nobody has thought of implants using a lot of current. So we had like a blue ocean in front of us, and we could take patent after patent for applications. We have made more than 300 inventions, and of course that's way too much for us. It would exceed even with the help of your great bank. We would never manage to finance 300 inventions. We have narrowed it down to 40, which is still a challenge. And now you can see here our patent portfolio addresses many needs, and we have now narrowed it to 40. If you want to look on google.com/patent/Peter Forcell, you will find more than 1,000 patent cases for Implantica, and I think you will spend more than the next weekend to read them all. So not all of these inventions are energized, because in the course of looking what can we do if we have current, we also found applications that don't need current. For instance, our product currently now on the market, the first product after this research time, is called Reflux Stop. It's a device to treat acid reflux coming up in the esophagus, which is an epidemic disease nowadays. We have a device that has confirmed in the clinical trials and now out in the field that if it's operated in the correct position, patients are fully treated. They don't have reflux anymore. The problem is gone the day after they leave the surgery. We have other applications in our former field to control obesity. The adjustable gastric band was for morbid obesity, as said. We have now basically our initial focus on digestive surgery and on urology. I can show you one concrete application, because it would take too much time to tell you even 5 or 6, not speaking about 40 applications. So this invention that I'm going to talk about is to reduce morbid obesity, which is the largest treatment field in the world. It's the biggest problem for society in the Western world. And nowadays, you can treat obesity surgically, because that's the only effective way. We know diets don't work. So if people undergo surgery today, it's quite barbaric. The methods are either gastric bypass, you bypass a part of your stomach, or what is now most in use, you take away part of the stomach, cut it away, put it in the trash. It's a very barbaric method, because the side effects of this treatment, of this surgery, can be heavy, and the long-term effects are doubtful. We go directly to the root of the problem, and that is, we have a device that is intended to control appetite. And this is an e-health device that gives me the legitimation to speak to you, because this device can communicate with the caregiver. I will explain you how. Satiety is the key factor. People who eat too much, they don't control the satiety. They keep on eating even when they shouldn't. They're calorie need is covered, but they keep on eating. There is one natural mechanism in the body that stops the urge to eat or even the possibility to eat, and that's when the stomach is stretched. When the stomach is fully full and stretched, nobody can eat anymore because there are stretching receptors in the upper part of the stomach that are connected to the brain, and they give a signal to the brain, I don't want to eat anymore. We actually discovered this already before, or we had a hypothesis about this already before these stretch receptors were histologically proven. When you look at the gastric band, I think it's a bit small here. It's this picture here. You see the little upper pouch of the stomach, and you see the big rest of the stomach. When the patient has eaten and filled this upper pouch, which is about like a table tennis ball, they feel full. So we already then thought it must be something in this upper part of the stomach that makes them feel full. Now we are dealing with our new device in a very different way. We don't change the anatomy at all. We just place a device on this upper part of the stomach, and we stretch the stomach with this device. And this is done via a trigger that is controlled by an accelerometer. It's a measuring device on the esophagus that can count how many times the patient swallows solid food and how many times the patient swallows liquid food. And when the amount that is predefined, let's say patient can in one meal swallow 8 times solid food, 5 times liquid food, then the small octopus...
Mr. Siegenthaler, could you please, in 30 seconds...
Okay, 30 seconds. Then the small octopus placed on the stomach will move its legs and stretch the stomach, and the patient will feel full. And what is the e-health part about it? The doctor can see the weight of the patient, and then he can, from his office, see, oh, this patient doesn't lose enough weight, I will allow him to eat even less from far, and there is no direct contact needed. Okay. So I could talk for 10 days about it.
I'm sure it's fascinating and we can feel you're passionate about it. Thank you very much for all of your presentations. Do I have any reactions from the audience? Does anyone want to ask a question to one of our panelists, or we can continue if you don't have any questions? I have a few questions I want to ask. Please go ahead.
I knew I had actually a question to you. At the Sberbank, you mentioned this very interesting thing that you are actually seeing yourself more and more as an IT platform with a banking license. And when you go into the biomedical realm, what actually are you promising for your shareholders, or what is the long-term idea of entering such a realm as a bank?
Well, I would refer you to our strategy that is posted on the internet. If you go to Sberbank.com, we have our strategy to 2020 posted on the internet. And we indeed are concerned with the shareholder value, and whatever we do as a part of our ecosystem benefits a priori our shareholders. We do lots of things for the society. We have lots of charitable programs, not just for kids and disabled people, but to boost the education so that the artificial intelligence and robotics does not prevent the young generation from getting good jobs, having a bright future. So I can talk a lot about what we do. Believe me, it was not even a scratch, in our biomedical activities, because the latest I can tell you, I initiated partnership with the Institute of Oncology, and we are creating the ecosystem, the first of its kind in Russia for oncology doctors as well as patients, that will have partnerships with the doctors and research institutions in the United States, China, I mean, you name it. Later today, we'll show the slide where we feature our partnerships. But overall, yes, indeed, we have shareholder value as a cornerstone, as a corporation. Even though we're an IT company with a banking license, we're a bank which is 177 years old. And most of the retirees and, teachers and doctors are clients of the bank. We cannot really put them down with very exotic experiments. So we try to balance and just add value to the society.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm going to proceed with my questions, starting with you, Dr. Geissbuhler.
Okay.
You've recently gotten the responsibility to lead the digital transformation at the University of Geneva. Can you explain to me how does that translate concretely and into the healthcare system, the healthcare domain,
Okay.
medical school, pharma, life sciences, etc.?
Well, as you know, universities are building the citizens of tomorrow, the next generation of citizens. And those citizens are already living, but are going to live in a world that's changing very fast, that is being transformed by technology, by the digital society. And so universities have to reinvent the way they actually build their students into responsible citizens, responsible in terms of a global world, into a world that is greener, into a world that doesn't create inequities, but also in a world that is where professions are evolving very fast. So the digital transformation of a university is not just moving from paper to computers. It's about rethinking how we teach, how we do research, how we communicate this with the society, and how we build the skills that are going to enable our students to become those responsible citizens. Now, healthcare is also undergoing a massive transformation. Most healthcare systems are broken. Most healthcare systems cannot pay for an equal access to quality services to their populations, whether it's in developing countries or in rich countries. And so we have to find new ways of organizing healthcare delivery, and that also involves creating new professions. We're currently designing new professions that are going to be in a more complex ecosystem, that are enabled by what we've heard before, by digital health, by AI, by the ability to communicate and collaborate in a much more active way. So, for instance, we know that a lot of things that are currently, or tasks that are currently dedicated to physicians are going to be transferred not only to nurses, not only to artificial intelligence tools, but also to patients and their families. And that is, if you do it right, that probably will create much more affordable and much more efficient healthcare systems. So this digital transformation touches all aspects of society, but very clearly the domain of healthcare at the healthcare delivery, but also at the public health level, because this richness of the data that we're generating, this ability to cleverly analyze the information is also a very promising source of knowledge and wisdom to actually organize the healthcare system better.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you have a question?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Serge Conessa from Immersion 4, company based out of Switzerland, also Lausanne. I have a question. It's more for Sberbank, and I would say as much I would say for the healthcare community. If we really look today in terms of data processing and data creation, healthcare is one of the most, I would say, consuming and creating data in the planet. Outside of data center, hospitals are the one, I would say, consuming as most energy. I hear about digitalization, and I just wonder if there is any plan to really reconsider data as energy, the way data center are designed and built, because making all those data today creates so much energy that basically we're going to speak about 2025 with 20% of the world energy consumed by data center. we have created a technology will answer that need. But we need to work together in order to link the data creation, the data management, the data life cycle, in order to avoid to arrive in 2030 with 40% of the world electricity consumed by data center for most of the data that we'll not be able to use or to process. And I just wonder if there is any kind of thinking, okay, in that consideration.
I would give it a shot.
Yes.
So there's one major problem which I've seen in healthcare as well as other industries. There are vast amount of data being collected, and it's actually increasing over time because we're getting more and more devices, like wearable devices, for example, as well as other new digital technology. The problem is no longer actually collecting the data. The problem is analyzing the data, and that's where machine learning or AI is a big topic, comes into play. But the other problem, and I've just spoken about this, oftentimes data is collected in silos. For example, hospitals or hospital chains don't share it outside of their ecosystem. And the problem there is, you have then these vast amount of data that are sitting there and are pretty much useless because they don't have internal capabilities and cannot work and don't want to work with external companies that can help them to analyze it because they're afraid of data privacy and security, right? So the problem is we are collecting more and more data, mostly siloed. No one is really willing to share the data. And at the end of the day, it's wasted energy, to your point. Yes, so there needs to be a lot happening at the regulatory policy level to allow for interoperability. In the US, the system is nuts in the US. From a European point of view, it's nuts. What happens, I give you one specific example. You have EHRs, right? These electronic health record systems. And there are a few big companies in the US, like Centrix and McKesson, etc. And now you have Meta cloud companies. All they do, the only reason why they exist, they're legally allowed to access at a Meta cloud service the different silos of data management that is being stored in hospitals only to make it accessible to external parties that they grant access to. So there's an entire industry that wouldn't exist if those special EHR providers and service providers would actually have a solid API access to those external parties that can help to actually make this data meaningful. Currently, we're collecting data, but medical doctors are completely overconsumed already. They don't see any value for them. It's nonsense. The data you collect is mostly nonsense. And there needs to be some sanity coming into the system, and people need to understand it, need to reflect on it, and it needs to be, to your point, be changes at the regulatory level, macro level. The micro level is not a problem. The macro level, the regulatory level. Does this answer or address your question?
Yeah, I would argue, if you let me, that it's not just a regulatory thing. I think doctors are not the agent of change in that domain. I think what we've seen, and we've implemented an electronic health record, a patient-owned electronic health record in Geneva, and Switzerland is going now full scale to this kind of things. Patients are the ones driving, and they're the ones who really want to make sure that this information is is interoperable, but is accessible, and that they can control what they do with it, who has access to it, how they want to share it, but maybe also how they want to value it, maybe sell it for research, and this is, I think, the game changer. I think regulation is going to be following. I think the two game changers are not.
But that's currently not the case. But you're right about the accessibility and controllability aspect of data for patients, which makes sense. But that's currently not working, at least in the United States, from the US point of view.
But that's not the best example.
I think it's one thing we can think about it to make this balance between treating the data, creating data, and energy. I think we may think about, and I really predict that in the future, in 3 or 5 years, we will have a kind of Christie's for data on auction, or a kind of stock market for data. That will encourage everybody to sell that data or to share that data. But as much as there is no...
Or to disconnect.
Exactly. One major point that Professor Geissbuhler explained also is this security. But this you have to put the right to be forgotten for any patient and any person. So that means you have access from your computer or from your smartphone. I don't want my data about me to be anywhere. So this is a key point to secure and is a bottleneck for the future of data. So maybe a Christie's and a stock market for that, and very clear, transparent rules. How do you explain it?
I would like to hear maybe Mr. Siegenthaler's view on this as well.
For me, of course, this is an interesting point. What you said, both of you, is what do you do with the data? I mean, you collect all these data, you analyze them, but what is the purpose of this? People have diseases, and these diseases need to be cured. It's not the data that needs to be collected or analyzed. And by collecting more and more data, the individual patient is not served. The patient who has urinary incontinence, he knows that he has urinary incontinence and he needs a treatment for this. And the global data doesn't help this patient to get this disease cured. So I think we mustn't forget to be very hands-on. We have to not only have huge data, but we have to have solutions, clear solutions how to alleviate diseases.
Laurent wanted to make a point.
Yes,
maybe we can pass it to Mrs. Teplitskaia, Helen, and then Marcel, okay?
For the personal data, there is an association with smart cities in the world. We are 120. What we are working on, for the bank account, you have the IBAN. It goes to one. If I send money, I go to this account to this person. We are working on an IHAN, H for human. It means that all the data will be related to me, Laurent, and I can manage it. That's what we try to do.
Okay. What I just wanted to add is exactly, we're already doing it. Because as a bank and the ecosystem, we also have the smart cities direction that we take. And the e-health data that we have in DocDoc is the essential part of smart cities component as well, because it's vital for emergency services, it's vital for transfer from one healthcare center to another. But we can take it to another level as a smart cities project, for example. We help the municipalities shrink the number of data centers that they otherwise have to maintain. And we promote versatility of data, where, say, the record that we have at the bank can be used universally for all kinds of aspects of the life of our client, including health.
Okay, Marcel,
just one quick question. By quick show of hands, how many of you in the audience, assuming I could give you a healthcare app that's as cool as maybe your most favorite app, let's say WhatsApp or Facebook, I don't know what you're using, something you use regularly, and you could give you access to your own electronic health records, all your medical data, how many of you would use it? Who of you would be interested in actually getting access on his own or her own to use it?
Sure.
That's the minority.
Can I add just one more example of data transfer hands-on? We are developing a device against aortic aneurysm. It's a cuff that is put around the bulge by surgery, and then this cuff has electronics to send out a signal to the patient and to the caregiver when the cuff starts to expand, because when it expands, it can burst and then the patient may bleed to death. This kind of data transfer, I think, is interesting for the individual patient, because it will save his life.
Well, I would like, very humbly, I would like to suggest three things. On the regulatory level, well, I used to be one of the guys who basically implemented the healthcare system in France. I'm not saying the system was perfect. As you know, the French are not perfect, and I'm one of them. But we all have a green card, going to the healthcare, to the hospital, professional of health, and having all the track record information and everything there. By this being said, there is 2 points, in fact. One is data, the other one is metadata. What will be good is to say that for the patient, who are having to a certain time of their life or when they passed away, to be able to have their metadata and data to be anonymous, to become anonymous. Then they could be given to the healthcare industry, I don't want to say industry, but let's get to the healthcare system, in order to be processed, to make machine learning and artificial intelligence more efficient, because at the end of the day, when you make a diagnostic on a patient, because we're talking a patient is a customer, okay, we need to have, a better, prognostic diagnostic on the patients in order to provide a better cure, which will automatically drive down, I will say, the cost of healthcare. The second thing is, talking about smart cities, we need to distribute data. We need to dematerialize the cloud. We need to put the cloud to be able to be distributed within the city and to have all those data to be completely anonymous. Today, technologies like air or water cooling are not the one appropriate for that. And data is very consuming. Immersion cooling is one of them. Well, I have a company, of course, I'm preaching for myself because we can do that by the technology I have developed. But what is more important is not the technology itself, is what about the data, the longevity of the data and the processing of those data in order to make, on a security level and on the regulatory level, everything's to become, I would say, more available, because at the end of the day, we need to provide accuracy on the data, on the managing those data, and to provide, I would say, the best, I would say, the information getting out of those data, without saying machine learning, artificial intelligence whatsoever. That would be my suggestion.
Thank you.
Am I able,
Sure.
allowed to add something to this? So I recently was leading a panel in London, and there were actually experts from the field. One of them was the former CTO of Virgin, who actually transitioned to healthcare because of a personal experience. And I learned this amazing term, which I had to read up on, called federated learning. Federated learning, which is an amazing AI capability where you no longer have to access the entire data sets. It's basically the initial layer of abstract data, and the machine learning capabilities through federated learning have the capability to basically build and reconstruct data underneath this layer without accessing it. That is a technical solution actually to the problem of accessibility of data. Federated learning, it was so cool, I was blown away. And I was reading about this, it was so cool.
Okay. Thank you very much. Does anyone would like to add a point on this?
That's fine.
No?
Well, I could just add a point on the question of anonymization. As you know, anonymization is a big issue because it's now pretty much recognized that it's pretty much impossible to anonymize data and retain its value for analysis, because it's so easy now to cross information that to identify someone becomes relatively easy. So I think just to say this is not such an easy issue of how you deal with what we call secondary use of data, and especially in healthcare, especially once you start dealing with genetic and genomic data. So probably what we are going towards is more trying to get citizens understand the issues and make themselves the decisions of how they want the data that they own, their own data, to be made available for research or not, to be able to opt in, to be able to revoke their consent. We're actually currently implementing a blockchain-based consent management system in Switzerland so that patients will actually be able to say, I consent to this study, now I revoke this consent, and make sure that the system basically is trusted by the citizens and reacts to what the citizen wants, because I don't think that a technical solution to anonymization or to control of what happened with the data is so easy to implement.
It's like when you, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I apologize. I see two cases on that. One is when we passed away, to be able to make in our will that we make our data available. And the second thing is when we are alive and we say that we are making, like we give an organ, okay, or the blood or anything, we are making also our data available. Or just basically suggestion. You're the expert.
Thank you.
Don't forget, one thing is that, for example, for the security, as we discussed, in the dark web, your health data has more value than your credit card. So it's very important to know how you deal with it. So.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If there are no other questions from the audience, maybe I would like to continue with Laurent and ask... Sorry, is there one? Yes, please, sorry.
Thank you. Maybe it's a little bit provocative question, but that's what I see, that doctor society, hospitals...
Can you speak up? I'm not...
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, doctors, hospitals, it's a quite conservative society, and I don't think that they are very much asking for digitalization of their world. And what do you see? Probably such big high-tech companies, like you have mentioned, six of them, they first of all creating new businesses for their own future, and certainly pushing this healthcare society to be involved in their business, then really need is coming from healthcare.
Okay, it's a good question. So who would like to answer this one?
I can go first. What I've seen over and over again, because my life is startups now, everything around entrepreneurship, and I speak for the United States as one example. Many engineers, very smart people, decided to get into healthcare. They basically had this false assumption that only because I've done well in other industries, I can transfer my technical capabilities and solve healthcare. They basically completely are underestimating the challenges. Healthcare is not a technical challenge, in my opinion. It is a regulatory challenge. It's basically a mindset challenge. To your point, you need to convince those who eventually end up using the technologies, right? These are nurses, administrators, medical doctors, and other hospital staff. So in my opinion, most of what we have technically today, or technology today, is really simple, especially if you learn even the basics of using such technology. So the problem is really the mindset change in the hospital ecosystem. And if you want to build a perfect system, you need to build something from scratch. I don't believe that a traditional hospital chain will be able to transform itself and now be digital first. It's like going to a company which has a really shitty work culture, and tomorrow, because we actually hire some consultants that come in to transform the culture, basically, will be changed entirely. The best thing I've heard about this was from Mathieu Leclerc. He was the former chairman of Decathlon, it's a large sporting goods company. He told me in a private conversation that culture cannot be changed, it can only be reinforced. And I think there is a certain truth to it when you think about technology. So to me, the best systems are the ones that are built from scratch with digital first. And to your point, I think Amazon is going to play a major role. Apple has already created its own healthcare system, only accessible to their own employees, and others will follow. We have this big partnership between Amazon, JP Morgan, and who else? There was a third company. So
IBM. IBM.
Yes,
IBM.
Dr. Watson.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they are basically taking healthcare in their own hands, especially in the US, to start controlling costs. And you need to do this from the bottom up. That's my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
I would.
Dr. Geissbuhler.
I agree a little bit, but not quite. I happen to run the Geneva University Hospital Innovation Center. Geneva University Hospital is the largest hospital in Switzerland. And we've decided that we actually are going to try to change transform the institution without, starting from scratch, because we don't know how to start a hospital from scratch in this setting. And I think one of the reasons why care professionals are not so excited about some of the tools we're discussing is that they don't see the value, or when they see the value, they don't see how they can integrate that into their workflow. Most of the applications that are being sold now to hospitals are 1980 kind of design. And so I think we have a real problem that the healthcare IT industry is not able to provide user experiences and new ways of integrating digital technologies in the workflow as the major digital players. And that's why they are disrupting. Now, if you come to those care professionals with solutions that make sense for them, first make sense, like it saves time for me so that I have more time for patients. Yes. Second, it is usable. I don't need to be trained for 2 days before I can use it. And third, and then those things will fly. Yeah. And that's what we're seeing. And again, one of the challenges we have is that we have monopolies of health IT systems that have been built on 1980 technology and are not evolving. So they're going to be disrupted. I don't think hospitals need to be disrupted from scratch to change, but hospital IT systems, I would agree with Marcel.
I have a question to build on this. So, in your creating new jobs for the future, and in the sense that so many of those tasks that have been performed now by doctors or nurses are going to be done by machines. So, what do you see the trend going in terms of new? Like, what would be the role of these health practitioners?
Again, I mean, it's putting back the user experience, and our user, our customer, is the patient, or the patient and his or her family. And so the question is, how can we get organized to bring maximum value and make sure that we have optimal care. Okay. And that's the way you rethink the professions. And what you realize is that maybe a pharmacy becomes the place where you should have diagnosis and the telemedical consultation, because for many situations you don't want to wait in the ER or try to join your general practitioner. You just go into a place where it's easy to get from the pharmacist a small diagnostic test, a telemedicine consultation with a doctor somewhere else, and then you just get your prescription and you go back home. All these kind of things can be redesigned using, you know, the techniques that have been developed, like design thinking, lean management, and other things. And that's how we should be rethinking those professions. Okay. And then the question is, how do you then translate this into actually a curriculum in a higher education system, so that then you can actually train the people to do so. That's the process we're in Geneva now, trying to design new professions of healthcare associate professions.
That's great, thank you very much.
What I would like to draw attention to is probably it's not a black and white situation. Mm-hmm. There has to be some kind of a golden balance between the intervention of IT industry and healthcare, because the best Amazon in the world still will have to rely on professional doctors. Mm-hmm. They cannot provide health care without engagement of the doctors. This said, the data that is at the disposal can be used exponentially with a greater intensity and value. We have not mentioned today the notion of evidence-based medicine. And this is what actually can flourish with the use of data at a meta level, using the big data, because what started years ago as a cohort, studies and the Cochrane collaboration, it was like a spectacle. However, this remains the only essential principle to actually globalize healthcare, to share the knowledge of the so-called multiple center studies, democratize the outcome of this research, and make sure that quality of care actually applies the best standards, the best protocols are available to people disregarding their financial standing.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, I think this is a very good point. Thank you for saying this, because we are now at the start with a new implant, and we all know that implants can be beneficial, but they can also backlash if they are misused, or if there's a specific problem linked to the implant. So we are exactly doing this. We don't want to do, we have now evidence that our implant works fine. We have 2 years of experience. None of the implants that have been implanted in the patient for this reflux disease have been explanted so far, so we are fine. We have good confidence, but we want to know the data from every single patient that gets our implant. So every patient that gets the implant will be recorded in a database, because we as a company, but also society, must know what is the performance of the device. The patient who in 3-4 years will want such a device has a right to know how good is it really. And that, I think, is a clear value of data.
Thank you very much. I think we have a question from the audience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you please introduce yourself and who you're addressing the question to?
Thank you. My name is Nazan. I'm a surgeon. I'm from the UK. So, Madam Chairman and esteemed panel members, I refer to a comment made by my colleague earlier that healthcare is not a technical challenge, but it's a regulatory challenge. I would also add that healthcare is an anthropological challenge. The second point is healthcare is also, or outcomes are a heterogeneous issue. We have to consider personal beliefs of the end user, which is the ultimate aim. That's the anthropological challenge, local culture, local beliefs. My second point being heterogeneous nature of the end user comes to an esteemed panel member who mentioned evidence base, clinical effectiveness and clinical efficiency being the key thing. So the challenge isn't cost effectiveness, that's part of the picture. The other part of the picture is clinical outcomes and evidence base, so that we have true value. So this complicates the matter, but it must be taken into account so that we don't waste resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to make a comment on this?
Question?
Okay, we have another question. All right.
Hello, I'm Donata Guerrini. I'm an engineer, and I've been building data center for 15 years. And to your point, sir, about data center energy consumption, the problem is that the infrastructure is outdated. I work for several hospitals that call us to build data center, to remodel data center when they are on fire and they cannot admit patients to their facility. Hospital of Denver, Colorado. I mean, we are not talking about a third world country. So the infrastructure is not up to date. The data are sitting in data center with no use, to Marcel's point. So let's invest in infrastructure, not only in software. Otherwise, we're not gonna go anywhere.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, a question.
Who would like to comment on any of those questions that have been put?
I just was very interested in your, yes, is in your questions, yes. I mean, you know what we agree that in coming 10, 20 years, some specialties in healthcare, especially doctor jobs, will disappear, that's for sure. Reading an image, I think it's almost we are there. It's not analyzing the image and everything. But of course, as my colleague said, doctor is extremely important and will be the last word of the doctor, because the tools you have, the smart tools you have, is only giving you, how can I say, the best, to make the best judgment, to help you to make the best judgment. But that's the end. The issue after is about treating the GAFAs and all, is the addiction effect. I mean, when you start using the platform, it's usually gratis. You just go and go in and use it and put your data. But then after, the rules change every time in the future, and then you will be dependent. So your standalone system must be first, and your, well, let's say it's intra-cloud must be the first strategy before going to those. But you have to use their know-how, because they have incredible resources focusing only on that. But they have a very lack of knowledge in really in medical field. Recently, as you know, if you look at the contact lens, I speak about contact lens as smart contact lens for glucose, for diabetes. Google and Novartis just stopped the project last year. They announced it and it's stopping because they have the data, they have everything, but they could not control the environment of the contact lens on the eye and the continuously the data. So it's not that simple like that, but they have the upper hand. Don't forget this.
I would like to respectfully disagree with you about disappearance of certain...
Please, you're first. I also wanted to disagree.
I wanted to disagree. You are biased, so I'll go first because you're a doctor and I just want to protect your... I'm
not making a living anymore in the hospital.
The thing is, if we are also, I think we also need to consider the limitations of artificial intelligence, the downside of complexities of machine learning, because blind reliability on robotic analysis, and particularly when it's a life and death scenario, life-threatening situation, it still has to engage the human brain and the highest level qualification of a doctor. But the industry will not vanish, I hope, at least not in my lifetime, because I personally would never ever rely solely on the automatic outcome, even of two machines.
I completely, how can I say, condone what you said and agree. The point is what I said is the last word will be for the doctor. But the numerous clauses that we now, the concentration of doctors.
You said that radiology will vanish.
Yes, I think in analysis of image, yes. I still think the same.
So to his point,
But anyway, yes, it's true. It's true.
Okay, one more.
To your point, I respectfully disagree entirely.
Sure.
For one reason, this has nothing to do with my being a doctor or so. This is literally based on, for me, common sense. When I think about AI, right, and we talk about the major challenge of adoption of technology in general, it applies to any industry. These are the end users. And in the hospital, it has to be adopted by a medical doctor or by a nurse. So think about this from a common sense point of view. Who would agree to be replaced by technology knowing that this technology has the ability to replace a person? So the best way I can back this is medical doctors have to be pitched and convinced in a way that they believe and understand that the technology, AI-driven technology, augments their capability. But if you use the word replacement, it's semantics. That's a no. It's a deal breaker. It's a no-go. It won't happen. So to the other point, my friend actually runs the largest healthcare AI company in the US, and he and I are quite open about talking about his business and the challenges that he has. And he mentioned one very interesting thing. We are naturally, and we have to be forgiving when it comes to human error. It happens in image recognition, in radiology, for example. However, think about this from a machine point of view. We are unforgiving when it comes to machines making mistakes. They aren't perfect, and they won't be perfect for years to come or decades to come. I don't know the number. So there won't be a replacement of humans, at least in the healthcare sector. It will be an augmentation, and it will be a facilitation, an additional clinical decision support making tool that makes it better and safer. It's basically a human brain plus a machine learning algorithm together that makes it stronger. But it's not either or. I mean, as of today, we don't have AI. It's an overused hype term. We have machine learning. AI means it has the ability to pass the Turing test, meaning you can no longer differentiate between a machine and a human. And that's non-existence. I've heard it over and over again. It's like a buzzword, like cryptocurrency and blockchain, which is, for the most part, I'm sorry to use the word, BS. And the same applies to AI. It doesn't exist today. We have machine learning, we have deep learning, everything human built. It's only as smart as the human who built, for example, deep learning neural networks. Okay. That's a major challenge. I sat down, wanted to do some of this stuff. This is really challenging. You need really, really brain power to do this. So to your point, it will, in my opinion, it won't happen. Okay. Period. I have a very strong opinion on that.
Thank you, Marcel. I think we'll have to conclude in a very short while. I just wanted to hear Laurent a bit about, like, 1 minute about the drone taxis and how likely are they accepted by the population, and when do you think we will have the first demonstrator in Europe for that?
As you say, the key will be, will the citizen will tolerate and accept these drones? The answer is in their hands, and we have to work with them together to see if they would like it or if they refuse it.
Okay, so what are your challenges right now in terms of bringing Switzerland into this initiative? And
what we see in the world right now, it's in China they would like to have thousands of drones in a city, and the US that would be probably the same. And in Europe, the thinking is, do we want to have 1,000 drones in the sky? If you ask the citizen, we need to have their feedback and not to influence them and to try to convince them it's good, but for us to convince them to if we need to go forward or not. And do we take the Chinese option, do we take the American option, or do we take the European option? Okay. We will see.
All right, thank you very much. One last question and then we will end it.
I would like you to ask a question about the sense of user. I think the technology will change the user.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's the access of the material. As for today, you need to go to a therapist, you need to go to a hospital. But the technology is changing and moving, like the example to find in pharmacy, diagnosis. So who will be the user tomorrow? Are you sure it's still in the hand of the therapist or the consumer patient?
Okay, thank you very much. Can we continue this conversation later, because we need to allow time for the next panel and have a break for 15 minutes. And I would like to thank our speakers very much today. Thank you for your quality interventions. And this is a fascinating topic. There is so much to be said about it, and it's hard to cover everything, but I hope you will have a chance to continue the conversation later on and to exchange card and network, what have you. Thank you very much, and voilà. Applause.
Bravo.
Thank you very much.